Laikin. Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome very much to Sectigo's Threat Visibility webinar. We must say we are very excited about the Sectigo Web platform, and my name is Michael Fowler. I'm the president of Channel Partners, been with Sectigo an amazingly long time, and I've never been more excited than where we are today. I'd like to introduce you as well to my co-pilot for today's webinar.
Thanks, Michael. I'm Laikin Ragsdale, the Director of Channel Marketing here at Sectigo, and I am excited to dive into Sectigo Web Detect with you guys today. The agenda for today's webinar, we're going to cover off why threat visibility is a leading reason for targeted attacks. What are the most common types of attacks on websites? What is blacklist monitoring? What is a blacklist? And the effects of blacklisted sites. And then Michael will dive into a technical overview for the non-technical for us. Understanding the risks and the problem and what are those types of attacks is crucial. Small businesses are huge targets for attacks because they're easy targets. In fact, 43% of breaches were attacks on web applications. That's more than double last year, according to the 2020 Data Breach Investigations report by Verizon. There's 5 types of attacks we're going to talk about today: bots, DDoS attacks, SQL injections, cross-site scripting, and malware. Many of us have probably heard of bots in the context of social media, but bots are much more pervasive across the web. A bot is really just a piece of software that runs automated tasks. At its core, it's just a tool, and it's not a bad thing. And there are plenty of bots that run automated tasks that are beneficial to users. Search engines employ bots to scrape data from your site for search results, for example. Unfortunately, it's a tool that's often misused. Bots are often created to launch DDoS attacks, more on those in a moment. And spam bots are often used to grab your contact information from your site and use it to send junk email to your inbox in large quantities. How prevalent are bots, you might ask? Some research suggests that as much as 1/3 of all internet traffic is generated automatically with bad bots. To protect yourself, it's important to have a filter on your site that will screen out as many bad bots as possible without hindering the good bots from doing their jobs. DDoS attacks is our next type we're going to cover. And when hackers band together to take down a website, they often do so using a DDoS attack. A DDoS, or distributed denial of service attack, is an attempt by a cybercriminal to flood a server with traffic and overwhelm its infrastructure. Millions of websites on the web have limited resources to handle traffic. For example, a small local bakery would have a website that only needs to handle a few hundred visitors a month. And with limited funds available to spend on web hosting, the owner might build a website using shared hosting, and that can handle not much more than those few hundred visitors each month. However, if there were somehow a sudden spike in traffic, the website would become overloaded and crash, making it unusable for anyone at all. This is essentially a DDoS attack. You can see why a small business website would be more vulnerable to this sort of attack. It would take a lot of resources to overwhelm the systems at, say, Facebook. But the bakery, that's easy pickings for a hacker. Now let's move on to SQL injection attacks. What happens when you have an SQL injection attack? Criminals are adept to using injection attacks to target SQL bases. They've done so for years. SQL injection attacks are one of the oldest, most prevalent, and most dangerous vulnerabilities, and it's often listed as the #1 threat to web security. When a successful cyber attack is conducted, sensitive data in the database is scraped and copied into a file for hackers to use as they see fit. Often the database holding those records is altered, with records added, modified, or deleted within the database itself. It's a flexible type of attack as well, which is why it's so prevalent. But what are they trying to access? What are the hackers trying to access with an SQL injection attack? A successful SQL injection attack can have very serious consequences for the victims. A hacker can use this method to do many nefarious things, such as access user credentials and impersonate others, export all user data from a database, alter balances, void transactions, or transfer money out of a bank account, destroy the functionality of a particular web application, or attack and bring down an entire internal network of a business. As you see, a SQL injection attack can be a disaster for users and for businesses. Our next type, cross-site scripting attacks, are very similar to SQL injection attacks. Leaving the technical explanations aside for a moment, both SQL injections and cross-site scripting attacks involve infiltrating a website through any open vulnerability and gaining access to visitors' information. If you operate an online shop, one of these kinds of attacks could give hackers access to a customer's payment information and other personal data. It's not uncommon for a cross-site scripting attack to also involve hijacking a visitor's user experience, redirecting them to websites like scam sites. A major part of online business is maintaining trust with your user base. If your customers can't be confident that their information is safe when placing an order on your website, they just won't buy. This is the main danger of these two types of attacks. And the last kind of attack we're going to talk about today is malware. Finally, you've probably heard of malware. It's just another attack that searches for vulnerabilities on your website. And it goes by many different names, such as ransomware, worms, trojans, adware, spyware. In fact, 27% of malware incidents are attributed to ransomware. With malware, the target isn't necessarily the user directly, it's you as the website owner. Malware exploits vulnerabilities and installs itself onto your website, which could potentially give hackers access to your business, its system, and any data you have stored online about yourself or your customers. The last thing you want to deal with while trying to run and build your small business is a breach of data or a cyber attack. Not only do they harm your business operations, they can leave your reputation permanently damaged, turning away customers in droves, which leads us to the next topic, blacklisting. What is it and what are the effects? When a person is blacklisted, that usually means that they have been publicly identified as participating in nefarious behavior of some sort. It's a signal to others to be careful when doing business with that person or that company. When you are a victim of a hack and it is detected, users will report your site to Google. The company will then slap that red warning page that you see on the left all over your website, warning users to go back and pick a different website. Online, websites blacklisted all the time. Around 10,000 suspicious websites are blacklisted by Google every single day. Think about it. You depend on Google to bring you traffic, leads, and sales. When you're hacked, Google will actively prevent you from traffic, leads, and sales. It makes sense. The last thing Google wants in a reputation is for leading people to viruses. If the top result in Google search results is malware infected, Google wants to know so that they can prevent sending more people to it. But how do you know if your site's been blacklisted? And what do you do next if it has? You may not even know your site's been blacklisted until well after the fact. Google may notify you, however, that when they add your site to their blacklist, but you may also just notice a steep drop off of traffic. It helps to keep tabs on your Google search results. See if you're still being indexed by Google, or if your site is being left out. If it's the latter, you are probably blacklisted. Well, if you're already blacklisted, then the malware on your site has likely been there for a while. Most malicious programs are built to be undetectable. It's not uncommon for a site to be infected for years without being noticed, but the trickle-down effect on you is significant. Your site will be behind warning pages. As we've already discussed, these red warning pages could lead users away from your site entirely. Your site could disappear from the Google search results, and this may spell the end of your business, especially if you demand and depend on Google search results for traffic. Websites lose about 95% of their traffic when blacklisted by Google. This can significantly impact online sales and overall revenue. Your reputation could also be irreparably harmed. It won't be impossible to overcome this challenge, but restoring your reputation may prove to be a long and arduous process. Once users associate your brand with that red warning page, it's hard to break. You probably have another problem on your hands as well. If your site has been reported as being malware infected, your problem could go a lot deeper than having to deal with reestablishing yourself on Google. You also have an added headache that comes along with cleaning up your site from the attack. That means moving all malicious code and reinstalling nearly everything to ensure that your system is clean again. Of course, you don't want to let it come to that, and rather you want to be proactive about your approach to online security so that your site is never blacklisted. And if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed by all of this, the good news is avoiding a blacklist is a rather easy affair when using Sectigo Web Detect. Michael, I'll turn it over to you to run us through exactly what the automatic scanning tool does and how it works technically.
Sure, thanks, Laikin. So Sectigo Web Detect. I think one of the most amazing components about the Web Detect platform is its ability to actually check content management systems or CMS platforms for vulnerabilities. So just like you can see the logos beneath Joomla, WordPress, PrestaShop, WooCommerce, Magento, Drupal, these are all CMS platforms that Web Detect can actually go and it can scan and it can check for any vulnerabilities. Now, it's important to remember that this entire Web Detect feature is all automated, it's fast and it's lightweight, and it offers real-time notifications. What this means is that we don't need to get any FTP or secure FTP access from website owners in order for them to be able to take advantage of the Web Detect platform. And what's really crucial for Sectigo and how we differentiate ourselves in the marketplace is that we can incorporate Web Detect with any SSL certificate. So if you're a partner with us today, you can speak to us, you can get this enabled for all of your SSL certificates. And if you're a customer or an end user with a website and looking to get an SSL, you can, in addition, come through and purchase any SSL and have it come with Web Detect. Now, an additional component that we cover is malware detection, and I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into that, as well as spam and blacklist monitoring, just what Laikin has been talking about on how important it is, in fact, to actually be aware that your website could be on the blacklist. So Web Detect covers 4 key functionalities. Now, external malware scanning. We understand that. We understand that we are then able to go through and look for malware. But what's really impressive is that we can look for this malware in the code. We can look for it in any sort of files. And it's not pervasive at all. It's a very lightweight monitoring where we hit the website just like a normal user would. We check 500 to 500 pages looking for any sort of malware, and we're then able to come back to you with real-time notifications if we have in fact found anything incredibly important for you. Platform vulnerability scanning. It's incredibly important for you to be aware if your CMS platform is out of date. And we have amazing components that allow you to automatically restore and resolve any of those issues. Now, there is a project called the Open Web Application Security Project, typically referred to as OWASP. OWASP essentially has a top 10 list of any sort of vulnerabilities that a website may have. And what this platform does is it checks all of the OWASP top 10, and again, we'll come back to you with real-time notifications if we found any vulnerabilities in your CMS platform or even any of the e-commerce platforms that you're using. Now, threat assessment. Threat assessment is something that's very compelling for us. It essentially is a way in which Sectigo leverages about 500 different variables to identify key factors in a website. Key factors could be website size, it could be the composition of the website, how many iframes are on the website, the software packages used, the CMS used, the amount of visitors per day, and it goes on. And it essentially takes all of this data and it computes it down into 3 easy to distinguish indexes, similar to a traffic light. We have a low, a medium, and a high. Anything with high, obviously, you should have a look at that. Anything with medium, you should be aware. And what's really great is that we push through these real-time notifications to you when any of these statuses change for your website so that you can take that action so that you don't get blacklisted. Now, blacklist is incredibly important because a lot of the time, just as Laikin was saying, Google, if they find any malware, or even if your website is linking to any malware, what they could do is they could turn off your website, give you that red screen of death. In addition, some web hosts will even send you a termination email, essentially turning off your website, your business, unless you do in fact take remediation steps. So it's incredibly important that with Sectigo Web Detect, you're alerted, you're offered this information, and you can take the next step to remediate. So just to conclude, Web Detect, it's automated, it does the daily scanning, it's fast, it's lightweight, it offers that real-time notifications, and most importantly, it's offered with Sectigo SSL certificates. Please do come back and please join us on some additional 15-minute webinars where we can talk about some of the fantastic other components that come with Sectigo Web. Again, thank you for your time today, and we do appreciate it. This is the Threat Visibility webinar, and we hope to see you again soon.